Hello there, welcome to the channel. In our last video, we spoke about conditional statements. In this video, we'll be talking about loops. Currently, we are going on a JavaScript series. We are touching the introductory basic things in JavaScript. If you are new to programming, this is a good place to start off. And I hope that this tutorial is able to help you understand loops in JavaScript. Let's get in there. Now, loops in programming and JavaScript inclusive. I used to do things over and over again. So, for instance, when we say loop, normally loop, for instance, if you watch movies, they say time loop. That is means you are going over the same time over and over again, the same time. So, a loop in programming is when you go over something again and again and again and again. So, let's say you want to go to the market. So you went the first time you bought sugarcane, you went another time you bought biscuit, you go the third time you buy candy. So the same, you're basically doing the same thing, just that you're buying something else, something different. So that is an example of a loop. Or you want to, let's say you want to go and fetch water in the neighboring house or compound. So you go the first time to fetch a bucket. So you go, maybe you want to go 5 times. So you go the first time, second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time. You're basically doing the same thing. So let me illustrate that in an example. So let's say let's uh let's say okay. So I want to fetch water one uh I want to fetch water twice. I want to sorry I want to fetch water thrice. So you see, you're basically doing the same thing. It's just that the first time you fetch water once, twice, thrice, fourth, and so on and so forth. So in program, rather than do this over and over again, so if I wanted to go over it 100 times, do I need to write it one by one? That would be 100 lines. Why don't I do it so that uh, it it runs for the number of times and does the same thing, which since it does the same thing in essence, and that is where loops shine. Now, basically in JavaScript, there are two major loops we have. We have the for loops and we have the while loops. And in JavaScript, we look at the both of them and try to see how to use them. And I will tell you at the end of the video my own idea and a tip on how I choose whether to use the while loop or the for loop. So for the for loops, we have this basic syntaxes. So majorly, so the major for loop syntax is for let a value I less than let's say 10. Sorry. Okay. So I could just go over and say console log. Okay. I want to. Okay. So as you can see here, it's going to do 0 up to 9. So you are doing this 10 times. So that this is a bit. So if I wanted to do this normally, I would have had to do something like this. If I wanted to write this same solution that I wrote in 3 lines, I would have had to do something like this. So this is 0, 1, 1, 2, 3. So you see, and then just copy this, copy 4, 5, 6. So you see, you get the gist. So you see, I will have had to go all the way to 9. Instead, I could just do it. So if I wanted to 7, I would just say and you see it does the same thing: 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 up to 7. 0 1 2 3 up to 7. So this is the for loop. So what does this mean? So in JavaScript, this is like where you declare the variable. Remember, we say let I equals 0. You could have just done this here. So it's basically the same. So what this does is you are initializing a variable which we use in your for loop. So this is an initialization, and this is a condition. So I want to start, and this, you are saying that where I will start from is 0. So I want to start from position 0, and I want to continue this. So this will start from I equals 0, and then it will continue this, whatever is within your for loop, whatever is in your for loop here, for our own example is console log, it will continue from 0 and continue all the way while this condition is true. So that is while I is less than 8. So for example, I is 0, so 0 is less than 8, it will run it. When 1 is less than 8, it goes. When, so you notice it stops at 7, because when it gets to 8, 8 is not less than 8, so it stops. It continues this program until this becomes false. So I is less than 8 is our conditional statement here. Now, and this last is how that my variable changes. What changes? Whether it's incrementing or decrementing. There is something that has to be changing to keep track of how many times you have gone. So I plus plus means increment your I by 1. So that is why you see that it goes from 0 to 1 to 2. It's going by 1. If I change it now to plus equals to 3, you see, that's 0, 3 and 6, because we're incrementing it by 3. So it goes from 0 to 3 to 6 to 9. But when it gets to 9, 9 is not less than 8. So it stops there. Now, I could initialize it and say is 12. I is greater than 0. I minus equals to 2. And let's see what this does. So you see this goes backward. I'm starting from, so you see I'm starting from, I'm starting from 12, or I want to continue as long as I is greater than 0. So we start from 12. 12 is greater than 0. Fine. It does this. So console log 12, and we see 12 here. It now comes here and say I minus equals to 3. That is, and it's saying I from whatever I is, which was 12, remove 3. So when it removes 3, becomes 9, and then 9 is greater than 0, yes, it does this again. 6 is greater than 0, does this, remove 3. 3 is greater than 0, it does this, remove 3, it becomes 0. 0 is greater than 0, no. But if I were to change it greater than equals to, you see, it includes 0, because 0 equals to 0, true. But it will not go beyond 0. So you need to be careful about your for loop, because for instance, if I came here and say I is less than 0, it will not go in at all, because I is 12. It comes and say 12 is less than 0. That's false. So it will not go in at all. So you have to be careful about your statement here, whatever you use as your condition statement here. Now that is the major way to use a for loop in JavaScript. There are other approaches we have for objects and we have for iterables, and I'll quickly explain those. Let's say we have an object 1 here, and then let's say let's just say uh, 1. Okay, let me use something more. So name, let it S solutions, class, and let's say primary 1. For whatever reason, primary 1. 8, let's say 15. Okay, let's say I think this one. So I want to go through all the items in this object. Now, one swift uh, approach we have in JavaScript is to use uh, let's say item in object in the house. If I show you what item is, you see, item is first of all going to be name. It goes to the next property class and it goes to the last property age. So for instance, let's say I wanted to say I want to see what is inside and let's see what's in item. So you see item is name, its class and its age. So let's say I wanted to get this S solution. So you remember in our object how we get object values. We write the object name and we put the property. So we know that the property for item, so if I were to put this here, so in the first scenario item is name. So when item is name here, the value was S solution. So you see our first answer is so S solution. It goes again to the next property which is class. When we put object 1 of class, it gives us primary 1. When we go to the third one, age, it puts age here. Object 1 of age is what? 15. So this is a switch way of going through the number of items in an object in JavaScript. So this is an important one to have here too for iterating through objects. Now note that you can't use the other approaches for objects. You have to use the in keyword when you want to iterate through an object. But let's say you have a list, an array. So let's say array is because one. Let me not use numbers. Let me use one. The reason why I don't want to use numbers we will see in a minute. For so for let item in array now we will see why. Now you see item is showing 0 1 2 3, but that is not what is here. We have different these are different items. This is a string. Or let me just use some random value another. So we don't think the computer is changing from numbers to string. Value final value. So you see the item, instead of showing the item actually is random value 1. So what the int does is it gives you the indexes. So the index, remember that arrays are 0 bit in index. So this is position 0, this is position 1, position 2. It just gives you those positions, the indexes. That's what int does. If you really want to get the value for an array, you have to use off. So when you use the off, it gets random value. It goes to the next, gets another value. When it goes around the third time, it gets third value. When it goes around the last time, it gets final value. So these are the ways you could use for loop in JavaScript. And let's move on to the while loop. The while loop is also uh, pretty useful. So what the while loop does is uh, it does something while a condition is true. So okay, let's use the example. Let me, here we said we console logged from 0 to 8 to 7 rather. So let's key is equal to 0. So let's say y is less than 8. I want to console log. Okay. And thinking about something. Let me comment this out and this question. Okay, it's okay with this. Okay with this. So what's wrong? Okay. Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. So this is something you have to be careful with when you're working with the while loop. While loop continues that thing. Okay, so for instance, in this situation, it will run this from k. At the beginning is k is 0. It will run this as long as k is less than 8, and here, as you can see, k is always going to be 0. It's always going to be less than 8. So to change that, we have to put something to be able to change whatever it is. If you don't put something to change this condition here, it will never come out of it. So this will continue because that value is always 0. But putting k plus plus here, what this does is saying that while k is less than 8, do this. So it goes in the first time. Sorry, let me comment with that. Cooker is taking a while to. Okay, so it goes in the first time. 0 is less than 8. Yes. Print 0 out. You know, initially we didn't increment. If we don't increment, it will still come back here. 0 is still less than 8. 0 is still less than 8. It just continues 0 is 0 is less than, and it will forever be there. So you must put a condition to make it come out of it. You must make sure this your k can change and at a point come out of it. If not, it will cause excess memory usage, and it can crash. It. So you see here we are doing k plus plus. So k plus plus means we are going from 0 go to 1. 1 is less than 8. 2 is less than 8. 3 is less than 8. 4. So when you get to 7, 7 is less than 8. Fine. Just console log 7. Increment and become 8. 8 is not less than 8. And then it comes out of it. That is the while loop. And we have another, which is do something while k is greater than 8. Now you know k is equals to k is 0 here. So remember, let me I would do something. Okay, here imagine I put 9 here. So 9 is less than 8. You see, 9 is less than 8 and it doesn't. So let me just use the same thing here so that we see that. Okay, so 9 is less than 8. Fine. So it comes here and says while 9 is less than 8. No, 9 is not less than 8. So if you see here with this white, it means and the code did not enter this point. So the code doesn't enter at all. But what the do while does is the same thing. K is equals to 9. Y is less than 8. The same thing. But we still see that it comes in here. Now, what is the meaning of this? This is because the do while will run at least once. So what happens is it comes here. You're saying do this, okay? It starts doing it. Console log k. What is k? 9. It does 9. Before it asks the question, is 9 less than 8, which is not true, and then stops. But here it asks the question before it starts. So while 9 is less than 8, no, it's not less than 8. It doesn't go in. But this, at least it will run once before it does. So if you have a program that needs to run once for whatever reason, you want it to run at least once, then this will be a good one. So it runs that once, and then you can check for a condition, a particular condition, and if that condition is true, it can run it again. But if that condition is not true, you can just go out of it. So that is the while loop. So I've spoken about the for loop and the while loop. Now, as an individual, my tip is, for me, what I do is, if I can predetermine how many times I need to go through something, I use the for loop. But if I can't predetermine how many times I need to go through an item, I use the while loop. Let me just quickly try and illustrate what I mean. So in the examples I use here, I know how many times I'm going to go. For loop, I can say for let k is equals to 0, k less than 5, because I want to go through this thing 5 times. That's fine. I use the for loop here. But let's say I am looking for, let's say I'm looking for a prime number that is greater than 50, the next prime number after 50. Now, I I basically don't know how many prime numbers are there before 50. So if I was to count, okay, say 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and this has. I don't want to go. So you see, so instead of doing this, I could just do while. So let prime number. So this is not how it's done. I just want to use this as an example. Um, okay. So okay, while prime number. I want to do it. So I come here. I'm checking if it's a prime number more than 50. So I'm checking if it's a prime number more than 50. I don't want to go into the implementing the code. I don't want to copy. Okay. How do we go about it? I want to use this. Okay, so for instance, okay, let's do this. Let's say I want to go through uh an item, a number of items. I don't know how long the number will be, so let number. So I don't know what number can be 50, number can be 400, it could be anything. No, but I want to find the next so let so I want to know. Okay, so when we get to, let's say, and I have another okay, but number three, I want to know the next multiple of um of 3 after 400. Now I don't know, normally I don't know how many times I will go through 400. I mean through from 3, 6, 9 till I get to 400 before I can now know the next one. So because I don't know that, there's an approach I could use. I know you could divide and know, but for the sake of this, let's just imagine that there was no way for me to know. So I could say while so let's create a counter here. Count is 0. So while our count is less than 400. So remember our going count plus equals to 3. That means our count is incremented by 3. And if I show you what count is here, count will be the next. So 402 is the next multiple of 3 after 400. So you see, this way I don't need to know how many times it went through this. If it was a for loop, I would have need to know that, okay, 3 is going to 400, maybe 100 and something time, maybe, like, if I'm to get, okay, 133. Let's say for let I is equal to 0, I less than 134, I plus plus, sorry, I plus equal to 3. These are talking multiples of 3, and then we say count is equals to I. So let me make count equals 0 here, and let's see what is count at the end of the day. Okay. Oh, so, okay. So this goes, it keeps incrementing it all the way. Now this doesn't really illustrate what I was trying to say, because what the point I wanted to make was, if I knew how many times I needed to go. Okay, so uh let's see. So I wanted to use 134. I will still like to use that 134, and let's say I plus plus. So I multiply by 3. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so that will be 135. Okay, so This in this situation, I know that I needed to go through this item 134 times to get to the number I needed. So I could just put starting from 0 all the way to that the number of times I need to go around, which is 134. Multiply your I by 3. Since I've talked of multiples of 3, this could be an output. But for this, I must be able to know that I'm going to go through this thing 135 times. But you see, in a while loop, I don't really need to know how many times I go through. Just continue until you get to that point. So that's why I said, when you don't know the number of times you will go through an item, when you don't know at what point you will get to what you are looking for, I prefer to use the while loop. But when I'm setting up the point where I will need the number of times I need to go through an item, I use the for loop. That's basically how the approach I use. So as a rule for me, if I can predetermine how many times I need to loop through, I use the for loop. And where I can predetermine it, I use the while loop. This is my personal way of choosing between the for loop or the while loop. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section and I will do so to respond as soon as possible. And let's not forget that the best way to get better at anything is actually, and very important, by doing it. Please subscribe, like and share, and I'll see you in the next video.